So, were you happy? I mean, because how close were you? I mean, I think I looked the times up this morning. You were a meter or so off.
Oh, it was about 6 inches. It was a photo finish for gold and silver.
Yeah.
And, I think it was 0.2, maybe
0.2.
Those Kiwis, they'd beaten us the 3 years leading up to that, and loads of other races by a combined margin of about 0.3 over so many photo finishes.
So were you there really pleased on the medal ceremony, or frustrated, or you didn't know what you were feeling?
I was pleased. I was really happy with the bronze because of the year that the year that we'd had, and the inconsistency of us that year. You know, I had felt that a medal was a good result for us, and that if we got one, it was a massive relief. And I Elise knows this, and it'll always be a source of sadness. But I didn't think of ourselves as a gold medal crew.
Yeah,
she did. Yeah, I didn't have the same level of belief. I just thought I wasn't ready. I thought that you had to be.
I think Anna's just frozen there. So we're just waiting there. I hope Anna, whose picture is frozen, as you can see, she was just describing that moment where Elise Laverick believed that they could be gold medalists in the 2008 Olympics, and Anna didn't. And there she goes again.
Can you let me in? Yay!
Yeah.
I just switched to the phone, Martin. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yes. So you're talking, Elise believed that she was a gold medalist, and you never did at that time.
Yeah, I think so. It was that idea that putting people on too much of a pedestal, to win the Olympics, you've got to have everything perfect. And I was really aware of the stuff that we didn't have perfect. And so I think that was just a blocker for me. I just thought, we're not there. We're not good enough. Which is daft, really, because no one's perfect. But it took, I'm a slow learner.
Now I've heard that you were quite assertive in terms of dealing with Tomo about the training that you do. Was it in either 2009 or 2010 that you actually decided you weren't going to be at Caversham for the whole lot of the training sessions? You were actually going to do some of your own work. Is that true? That
but basically, yeah. I mean, it wasn't so much about being at Caversham or not being at Caversham, but it was more about volume and what was right for different athletes. And there's, as you know, Martin, there's been for a long time a one size fits all training model, and a bit of talk about individualizing the program, but the reality was 99% of it is the same for everyone. And what happened then after Beijing is rode with Annie in a double then, and I had a lot more confidence, thinking, I am an Olympic medalist now. I'm properly part of this team. I can hold my own with your Debbies and your Frans and your Catherines, and I'm not at my depth anymore. And we did this double with Annie, and we had a really fun year, and we tried to make it really light-hearted, and thought, you know, the stress will come plenty enough when it gets around to the Olympics again. Let's just have a really enjoyable season, go do some racing. And we had a final that World Championships in Poznan, and we didn't have a sprint at the end of our final and got a silver medal.
Yeah.
And I usually do have a sprint, and I sort of knew coming into that, well, I knew very clearly actually going into that World Championships I wasn't properly tapered, that I was still carrying a lot of fatigue from Breisach camp before.
Yeah.
And we'd had a few rows about it, and well, you do the training if you want to, and so on. And obviously, you know, Tomo's a successful coach, and he knows what works, and what has worked in the past. And I came back from that World Championships thinking I knew what needed to happen to win that. I just needed to back off those last couple of weeks a little bit, and recover. And then I've had that sprint, and I thought I felt so angry. I thought I don't want to be on the start line of the Olympics thinking that I've done something less than best preparation. And the best preparation has got to include me being able to listen to my body now that I know a bit what I'm talking about, having spent a few years and done an Olympics and come through the glandular fever and so on. And I felt like I got really quite sensitive to where I was versus going too far with the training and overtraining and so on. And I thought, we've got to use it. We've got to use that knowledge that I've got. Otherwise, we're just missing a massive trick. Yeah. So the conversation that I had with Tomo was around that. Like, you've got to be prepared to listen to what I know and trust that I know my body now. And his perspective on it was, you know, well, you just need to tell me. And and it can be quite an intimidating guy. So some of it was actually just me toughening up a bit and being prepared to go in, and even if I knew he wouldn't like what I was going to say, and not worry too much about upsetting someone or annoying someone by saying, I don't think we should do this session, even though I knew it was going to cause a row. Or I think we should change this. And him needing to see me as one of his senior athletes, and not a new person anymore who just needed to be told what training to do. And it was transformational, really was. It set our relationship up then, for the London cycle. Could just be much more. He respected me more, I think.
That's really interesting. I can't imagine one of the guys going to Jürgen Grobler, the men's chief coach, and saying the same thing, or Jürgen reacting in that way.
No, I mean, I think Tomo's he's a interesting character and a guy that I've got loads of respect for now, and we're really good. We're good friends now. We stay in touch, and he just wants to win, and he's just doing what he believes is the absolute best to win, and it stresses him out sometimes, and he's human. And so it's learning to work with each other, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you won by miles that first year in the double with Katherine Grainger in Carapiro. You won by miles, I seem to recall.
It was magic. It was absolutely magic. We got in that boat in the winter of the 2010 season in Abyss, and I'd been in the double obviously then a couple of years with Annie and a couple of years with Elise, and knew the event and the strength of the cruise we'd be racing. And I got in the double with Catherine and just thought, it's just going to blow it away. Like, this is it was so easy to row together. You didn't have to adapt. We got very similar geometry. Just felt like I could row to full strengths, and it was just absolutely brilliant time that first season, where we were kind of felt like we were putting icing on the cake that was already there. And we got to, it's funny season because it was a long season, and Carapiro was in the autumn, and you had the flight and the jet lag and all of that. So we got there, and had a few wobbly days where we didn't really feel the magic, and then took a long row up the river one day, and Thomas couldn't come with us because of launches and so on, and we just kind of had this 20k row out and back, came back, sorted it out, found it, and then the funniest thing that happened in that final was, obviously as in bows, Catherine very, very good about keeping her eyes on the boat and not looking round, and so I was calling that we were in front, and that we was working on our rhythm and our efficiency through the middle K, and kind of we were pulling away from the field quite nicely and not stressing about it. Catherine is like, she's listening to me but not completely, because she's still rating higher than I'm saying to, and I can see that there's like tension, and it is our first World Championships final, so she does have an extra gear for big races, Catherine does, and so I was learning that as well. I was thinking, come on, we are a long way in front, and let's just make sure that we're doing this really well and not frantic. Anyway, so we got off the water, and she told me that the camera crew had been out to the side of us.
Yeah.
And she was convinced.
Oh no.
She can't count to 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she thought I hadn't counted properly, and that we were in second place.
So it's interesting because I guess rowing with Katherine Grainger, because she had this reputation, she was the queen bee of the women's squad to an extent, and I know she was, she had that amazing year in the single in 2009, but in 2011 you beat her in the singles trials, didn't you? Which caused quite an upset. Yeah,
I think it was a really big deal for me to feel like I'd sort of come of age, and so I'd had some good results in crew boats, but and then in the single I could win the long distance trials. But she always seemed to pull something out for the side-by-side stuff, Catherine's special gear. And she always play these games that she'd say she never played games, but you'd never know what she had, because she'd get beaten on camp, in dry runs and stuff. And you just wouldn't know what it would take to beat her, because every time it was a big race, she'd just put it out. So it was, for me, it was a huge deal, and I think it still matters to me now that I was able to do that at least that once come top. But it rattled Catherine. I remember her being really upset. It was obviously a point of pride, and I think also because she was well into her 30s by then, and she perhaps thought that she was moving past her peak or something, because she got beaten for the first time in ages. And when we got in the double together after that, she, her confidence wasn't at her usual high ebb, and it did get me to thinking, was it worth it? I don't want to. I don't want it to be like really sad and not confident. I want the upbeat, super. We'll beat the world version. So then she won in 2012 in the singles trials, and I could be quite sanguine about it then, thinking, well, maybe you lose the battle but win the war. Catherine's really happy and confident. Let's go.
You had quite a tight result in 2011, didn't you? Because you came down with the dreaded lurgy or something like that during championship.
Oh, yeah. So it was Norovirus. Really quite spectacular. I won't paint the picture. So we were sharing a hotel with the Germans, and I think 11 of the Germans came down with it, and one of us, which was me. So you take that. I just couldn't come out of my room. It was awful. This was 4 days before the start of the regatta, it all kicked off. Or maybe 2. Oh no, I got back in the boat for 2 days before the first race. I'm trying to remember the timeline now. No, we'd done the heat, but we had the semi and the final. That was it. So the heat was before, and then the semi and the final was after. And in the semi, I just felt really drained, and I was singing to myself on the bus and all around the boat park and everything, just to kind of like block out the chat in my head, thinking bad situation, don't feel very good here, and just to try and think about only the rowing and block out feeling rubbish. And fortunately, the heat was all right. Like, we got out to a good lead by halfway, and then I really did feel awful at halfway, but we were able to just hold where we were and come through to the final. And then for the final, I felt all right until about the last 250, and then Katherine had to do that bit.
Yeah.
But it gave us masses of confidence, because we just thought, and also that was the year when I was out for 3 months with a back injury as well. So we thought, if we come through that year and won, maintained an unbeaten run and won World Championships and stuff, then that's, and our opposition don't know what setbacks we've had.
Yeah.
Then we've got, this is where we want to be for 2012. So.
Was that when you were doing all your research for your PhD? Because I wondered what you thought about how much support you got from British Rowing to be able to do stuff for your PhD while you were training full time.
Yeah, I did have patches, I think, particularly in 2009 and other times of low pressure, where I'd do afternoons on the PhD and do 2 sessions in the morning with the squad, then go into uni and then do another session in the evening. So I really do think genuine efforts were made to make it work. I think where it comes into trouble is if you've not got clarity between yourself, British Rowing, and whoever, whatever the other thing is you want to do, about what the pecking order is.
Yeah.
And for me, the pecking order was rowing first, and that's why the PhD took 11 years, Martin. So that was all right. And it was actually Josh West. You remember Josh?
Yeah.
Anyway, he'd done a PhD at Cambridge, and he'd been my supervisor at Cambridge for some of my degree, because we were in the same department. So I knew Josh quite well. And I chatted to Josh when I was thinking about doing a PhD, and his advice was, do not go to Cambridge for it, because they think they're the most important thing in the world. British Rowing thinks they're the most important thing in the world, and you're stuck in the middle. Whereas Reading, we kind of knew the deal. I had a sports scholarship. I did some PR bits and bobs for them. I self-funded the PhD, so I didn't have anyone on my back. And that's the way that I wanted it, because, I knew that I didn't do any PhD work in the Olympic years, for instance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that Olympic year, because there was quite a lot of pressure on you as a crew, being world champions, double world champions, coming into that year as firm favourites.
Yeah. I mean, we just had to keep telling ourselves that's where you want to be. You want to be the talked about. You want to skate at opposition. We entertained ourselves a lot by following the Australian media and the interviews that our oppo were giving. All the chat that they were doing about how they put together a new combination and it was going to be awesome stuff. And we would watch their videos of their body language and think, they're not really friends, don't even like each other. We focused on that. We really tight friendship, especially by this point, and we stayed in our little universe, really supported each other, and tried to enjoy it. Katherine was brilliant for me, because I've explained how what of a stress head I was in Beijing, and how much I had to sort of pressure put on myself to be the toughest, and sort of felt that if I wasn't being really hard on myself, I wasn't trying hard enough, and that was going to make the difference and all of that. Whereas Katherine just loves racing, and she'd just bring this whole absolute unbridled joy of getting the red mist on and going for it. And she really allowed me to have a bit of focus on the opposition, because I've always been like so much in the own boat on what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
She was like, no, we're going to beat these people, and we're going to get, that's going to give us extra energy and adrenaline. And we have calls for against different crew, and we wound ourselves up to really, really, really wanting to crush them. And, there was a lot of like excitement and positive emotion in that crew, and how we would get, just really looking forward to the hard bits of races where we were going to move on, do something that the other crews couldn't, enjoying our playground. We always called it, always said that London was our playground.
Well, it really was. Is it true that you had that Whitney Houston one moment in time as your signature record?
Yeah, we had it. We had the hotel room that we were in had an iPod alarm clock that you could plug an iPod in. So we had Whitney every morning, different Whitney song, and then we had one moment in time for the Olympic Day, because Katherine is actually massively cheesy, so she couldn't let a chance like that slip by.